welcome to another broadcast. The Prime Minister's address to the nation is now over, and now all of us, we know that what did he talk about. But interestingly, our ability to speculate and our ability to fall for rumors and to contribute to rumors as well is something really, really very amazing. You know what has been going on over the last 3 days. Now, this announcement about the Prime Minister's address to the nation that further added to the speculations, because a lot of people across Jammu and Kashmir, they were thinking that since the Lieutenant Governor, the Chief Secretary, the Police Chief and a lot of other officers, they are there in Delhi, they had a meeting with the Home Minister, they had a meeting with the Home Secretary, and there is certainly going to be something very big about Jammu and Kashmir. And this afternoon, when this announcement, when this advance notice came up about the Prime Minister's address to the nation at 5 o'clock, so that gave further credence. So now everyone understood, everyone believed that the rumors, those were going on over the last 2 days, were not entirely without basis. And now there is something that's going to be announced by the Prime Minister at 5 o'clock. Now, since Prime Minister has spoken, and we know that what did he talk about, a number of people at this time, they are saying that it was generally believed that he would be talking about COVID and COVID mitigation affairs as well. But if you look back and go back to the Facebook and the Twitter timelines of a lot of people, a lot of responsible people, a lot of sensible people, and you will realize that everyone was actually speculating, everyone was falling for rumors, and everyone was contributing to rumors. This is what we saw on the surface. This is what was visible on the social media. But if you go beyond social media, I mean, on the basis of my personal interactions with a lot of people, I can clearly say that the level of speculations was really, really very high. People were thinking about, the way, whatever things they had in their minds, whatever they wanted about Jammu and Kashmir, a lot of people were thinking in that context. So now the dynamic has changed. Now a number of people you speak to, they say that nothing was going to happen. There is absolutely nothing that can happen about Jammu and Kashmir at the moment. So this had to be a routine thing, and which is what it has happened. Basically, what exactly happened, because why this meeting of the Lieutenant Governor and the other officers in Delhi with the Home Minister assumed a lot of significance at this point. And a number of officers, because they accompanied him, including the Director General of Police and the new Chief Secretary and the old Chief Secretary who was supposed to relinquish his office on today. Today is the 7th of June, as per his numerological advice. Basically, a meeting between the Union Territory Administration's top functionaries, including the Lieutenant Governor, and the top functionaries at the center, including the Prime Minister and the Home Minister. There has not been a meeting of this scale, of this level, over past several months, because all these functionaries in Delhi, they were busy with the West Bengal elections. Now, since they are over with the West Bengal elections, and then this, fresh surge of COVID across the country, that has been, bogging down the government at several levels. So this was the right time when, with a significant decline in COVID cases, this was the right time to talk about the other issues, about other parts of the country. So Jammu and Kashmir, of course, is one of the priority areas. So the meeting basically, as I said yesterday, that 3 or 4 persons or 5 persons being in Delhi on a certain weekend does not mean that it's going to change the political status of Jammu and Kashmir. That's something we discussed yesterday. So nothing of that nature has happened today. That does not mean that Prime Minister hasn't said anything in his address, and Prime Minister's address was not about Jammu and Kashmir. So the developments of yesterday and day before yesterday bear no meaning. Certainly they discussed important issues, for example, that whether it's time to hold the Amarnath pilgrimage or not, because the Lieutenant Governor and a number of people, number of functionaries in the central government were also very keen that since the yatra has not happened in a proper way over the last 2 years, so something should be done, that yatra takes place. There are some ideas that if the surge in the COVID cases continue, or even if there is a decline but the concerns remain, so maybe they can arrange some religious figures, they can invite some religious figures from different parts of the country, and then can have a limited pilgrimage by following the due SOPs and COVID appropriate behavior as it's being known. The other few things which are of interest is that this change of guard that had happened after Chief Secretary, a new Chief Secretary has taken over. This person, Mr. BVR Subramaniam, had taken over as Chief Secretary in June 2018. Now it's been 3 years. At that time, you remember that Mr. N.N. Vora had taken over the full control of the government as governor just barely 2 days after Mehbooba Mufti's resignation, when this gentleman, Mr. Subramaniam, he took over as Chief Secretary. Then Vora left and he was replaced by Mr. Satyapal Malik. So you had two executive heads. And then Satyapal Malik left and he was replaced by Mr. Girish Chandra Murmu. Murmu was not able to complete his 10 months, and you got a new person to head Jammu and Kashmir in the name of Mr. Manoj Sinha. And Mr. Sinha is yet to complete his 1 year. So four governors and lieutenant governors have changed over the last 3 years, but one person has stayed permanent, which means that this person, Mr. BVR Subramaniam, was a key link of the center in this, in carrying out this transition, in a very important, vital transition in Jammu and Kashmir. So some conversations at that point that, what are the things which are on the book which the new chief secretary can follow, and are there certain things which are off the book which the new system needs to understand. With the exit of Chief Secretary and elevation of Financial Commissioner Finance as the Chief Secretary, there is also a need to go for a little more reshuffle in the administration at the top levels. And the Director General of Police, it's also due to have a new Director General of Police. Is going to, the present incumbent is going to complete his 3 years later this year in September. So all said and done, why was this spate of speculation? Why were a lot of people speculating, and why were there so many rumors? This is basically very natural. I mean, it's absolutely, there is nothing to feel shameful about it, that if someone was being a part of rumors and speculations in the morning, and after hearing the Prime Minister's speech is saying that no, there wasn't anything of this nature that anyone expected. So this is a normal course of development that's taking place. And this society, the kind of society of which we are a part, the kind of place where we have been living, it's a deep and prolonged and intractable conflict. Hold on, I understand that a lot of people don't want the word conflict to be associated with Jammu and Kashmir, but that's in an entirely different context. That that is to keep Pakistan away from our internal affairs. That's number one. Another way why people don't want the word conflict to be associated with Jammu and Kashmir is that that because Jammu and Kashmir is just a normal state, an ordinary part of the Union of India. So why to say that there is a place which has conflict? Conflict actually plays out at different levels and at different layers. The kind of political environment that has been prevailing over the last 3 years, that you have a set of people who have been running the administration. They may be really very good person to do their job, but then there is a complete absence of communication between the people and the government at the political front. So when there is this kind of communication, and you have a huge history, you have a huge background of things having happened with a lot of surprise, with a lot of imagination, that you never thought that such a thing could happen, for example, on the August 5, 2019. So every time one would like to speculate that if there is something that's going to happen that we would not have thought of. So there is an interesting thing that if you go back to the timelines, and if you go back at how what exactly were people speculating about, a further division of Jammu and Kashmir, carving out of a new division, including the taking out the South Kashmir, 2 districts from South Kashmir and 2 from Rajouri and Poonch, and creating a 3rd division. So there was something speculated a couple of years ago that was later denied by the center, that there is no such proposal under consideration. And this was basically the optimists thought about restoration of the state. They thought that since these people, they have met in Delhi, so this probably discussion could be about restoring the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir. And the pessimists thought that no, probably last time they created a union territory, and this time this could be a further reduction to the municipality. But my belief is on two things which I would like to say in the end. One is that it's absolutely natural to speculate. It's natural to be a part of rumors. It's natural to fall for rumors and contribute to the rumors because you're not in a normal political and cultural environment. There is a lot of suspicion. There are a lot of things which you're not aware of. So falling for rumor or raising speculations is absolutely normal. Number two is that the kind of changes which have happened in Jammu and Kashmir in 2019, August 5, that's not the final thing. And everyone within Jammu and Kashmir, which is why, everything, such a thing happens that someone meets somewhere and you think that, something is going to change in a drastic way. Because everyone across Jammu and Kashmir feels or wants or desires to for the things to change further. Now, whichever way, that is an entirely different thing, but people still want a further change in the situation. So if you look at how a lot of people have responded to these speculations over the last 2 and 3 days, you'll find out the kind of mindset, the kind of thinking, the kind of desire everyone has is, gets reflected in the conversations and the social media posts. The more optimist will think that, look, elections, restoration of state, restoration of political process, and the pessimist, further division of the state. There's something, that's going to happen at another scale, disempowerment, etc., etc. But my belief is that things will certainly change, but a time will come that will have involvement of the people, and it's at that time, I mean, even if a state is to be restored, there has to be a process towards that. There has to be a stakeholdership for that. There has to be a wide involvement, wide consensus of the people that this is where we want to achieve, so that if center is going to restore something which has been taken away, so there is some win-win situation on the on both sides. Thank you very much for watching today's quick episode.